Hi everyone, my name is Gustavo Yaguno. Welcome to my page. Today I'm sharing my project on Chicana feminism. This project is important because it shows how identity, culture, and activism have changed over time. I'll walk you through the history, the key models, and how feminist voices reshaped the movement. In the 1960s, schools tried to erase culture through strict rules. Garcia and Hurtado explained schools were essential in implementing what was called a policy of Americanization. Students were punished for speaking Spanish. Hurtado and Rodriguez add students reported having been spanked, given detention, fined a quarter, made to run labs, and even having their mouths taped shut. These punishments show how schools enforce assimilation and silenced identity. This was the starting point of resistance. By the 1970s, things began to change. The Chicano movement turned shame into pride. Hurtado writes, by the 70s, ethnicity was no longer something to hide or be ashamed of. This was the height of the Chicano movement, which advocated a nativist return beyond Mexican culture to Chicanos Chicanas Aztec roots. Murals, protests, and cultural pride became visible everywhere. But even in this moment, women often had to fight for their voices. They began questioning gender roles and pushing for feminist perspectives. In the 80s, scholars introduced the internal colonial model. Almaguer and Blauner argue Chicanas were no longer um, thought as another immigrant group just like European immigrants. Instead, their history of colonization was recognized as an integral part of the development of their ethnic identity. This gave more depth to the analysis of identity. It showed that Chicanos and Chicanas were shaped by colonization, not just immigration. But even with this new model, feminist voices were still missing. In the 90s, Hurtado described the social engagement model. This model looked at identity through work, family, school, and community. It was broader and more connected to everyday life. But again, feminist perspectives were not included. This shows how mainstream frameworks often sideline one woman's experiences, even when they try to expand the lens. From the 2000s onward, Chicana feminist scholars filled these gaps. They used testimonial and pedagogy to create new ways of teaching and resisting. Prieto and Villenas explain, as teacher educators, we are engaged in contradictory and transformative ways of knowing, teaching, and learning as articulations of Chicana feminist pedagogies. They also show how testimonial can contest power and create liberatory knowledge. This means classrooms became a space of liberation where personal stories connected to collective struggles. Recent scholarships adds even more. Ireland highlights that Chicana feminism grew from the intersects of multiple social, economic, and cultural systems. This shows that Chicana feminism was intersectional from the start, rooted in the lived experiences of Mexican and Mexican American women. Perez's History of Chicana Latina Studies Journal shows publishing itself as activism. She explains the history of Chicana Latina studies cannot be told without telling at least some the history of MOGS and its importance. This highlights how collective publishing practices resisted erasure and gave voice to Chicana, Latina, and Native women. The journal makes creative work, poetry, and scholarship, showing that feminist praxis was not only about theory but also about building community and visibility. Together, these sources show how Chicana feminism grew from resisting assimilation to building intersectional frameworks that reshape identity, community, and activism, from schools that punish Spanish to murals of pride, to feminist pedagogy in classrooms. The story is one of resistance and transformation. Chicana feminism is not only theory but also practice. Live through culture, education, and collective resistance. Thank you for visiting my page and listening to my project. Viva la Chicana Feminist.